say thank you to you because, you know, it's so easy for us to discard people based on, past experiences. So you came on last couple of times before you came on, and you talked about Jamie Harrison. I think after the midterms,
Right.
and you said he did a great job, and I couldn't, at the time, put any validity into it, even though I know you were telling the truth, because I
Right, right,
really am disappointed with the style of the DNC. Like
right,
I
right, right.
hate the way
Yeah,
they
everyone is.
feel so
Yeah,
passive. Right. So it's
yeah,
it's hard for me to see the
yeah.
work when
Yes, exactly.
the style is so
Yeah.
infuriating. I
Yes.
need some Fani Willis in Jamie Harrison's. You know what I'm saying? I need him to get to channel his inner Fani Willis. I don't know who he's channeling, but we need some of that energy, some of that Hakeem Jeffries. I don't care. Come out, rhyme, and bust somebody verbally in the face. We need that right now because the fire that we're fighting with is not at the same level. But you said
Exactly.
the things, and then I saw the things, and I was like, you know what? Rachel is absolutely right. And we need to be able to sit in correct information, even if we don't like the people or the deliverer of that information. And then I want to play a clip because, as you said, not only is there a Project 2025 1,000-page manifesto on what will happen when they have the House, the Senate, they have the Supreme Court for the next 50 years and the presidency again. They already have a blueprint. If you don't know it, please read it. But Trump stood up in Vegas and said this. Smith, play clip one.
We'll terminate the visas of all of Hamas sympathizers, and we'll get them off our college campuses, out of our cities, and get them the hell out of our country, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, he means that.
Yeah, thank you for playing that because I'm not making it up. It's not like I want to minimize people's legitimate complaints and then just say, oh, but be afraid. But it's not, in other words, it's not a threat. I'm not trying to do it to be cutesy. I'm trying to tell people the God honest truth. And when they say Hamas sympathizer, folks, just to be clear, they mean anybody that's slightly kind to the Palestinian cause. Okay.
Right,
That
right.
don't mean actual Hamas sympathizers. And so that's you. That's
Yeah,
me.
I know.
You.
I,
That's
I
the
got it
listeners, right? Like,
today on Twitter because I
yeah.
applauded Barbara Lee because I watched her documentary. I actually, when I did my when I published the book, Keith Ellison's book, The First Muslim Elected to Congress, he was the one that mentioned it. I got to talk with Barbara Lee on these airwaves. I know what kind of courage it took for her to stand up and be the only one in the wake of 9/11 to say this is wrong what we're doing going to Iraq. So I brought it up, and somebody was like, "Oh, you stand with Hamas," and I was like, "Wait, what? Is this how we draw this line?" Like, two
Yeah.
things can be true. I can be absolutely against the murder, abject murder of millions of people, and at the same time understand this country's support of Israel, and at the same time be anti-Hamas, and at the same
Yep.
like none of these things but they're trying to lump everything together so they can have a nice little narrative and they can put people in these boxes and label them and cancel them when really if we don't center humanity at this point we will not have humanity to center.
That's exactly
Just
right.
that
And they
simple.
planned, they're painting large targets on our minority communities. Elon Musk, the man has 200 million followers. So even if he didn't own Twitter, he would have an outsized disproportionate influence in that space. But now he
Well,
owns
wait,
it.
hold on, Rachel. He has 200 million followers because he gave him. If he owns everyone who's in Nubia has to follow me, pretty much, right? You own you own the project, the platform. People got to follow you. He owns the damn thing. It's not
Yeah, no
like people
doubt.
are following him. He pushes a button and everyone has to follow him. I unfollowed him. Like I had to
Yeah,
be
yeah. I
proactive in
mean,
not following him.
however it came about, right? It's a huge megaphone. And what he's using it for right now, folks, is to, the immigration numbers are they're pretty big. Okay. 7.5 million people have crossed or at least tried to cross the southern border in the last few years. And they're exploiting that, telling people, literally Elon Musk, this guy who has direct access to the minds of many, many, many more people than anybody else on earth other than Taylor Swift, right? He's telling them right now today on his Twitter thread, they're letting in illegal brown people. They're going to register them to vote right away, and they're going to steal your democracy, folks. Okay. So I am so
Wow.
afraid for these communities that someone is going to come, there's going to be an act of violence. And what we're talking about is really not, we're not trying to be like, oh, Chicken Little. The stuff that's happening is very scary for our communities of color.
And it's not like we haven't been here before, but to your point, Rachel Bitecofer is here. She's got a new book, Hit 'em Where It Hurts. There's a blueprint in there for what to do as well. So as we read Project 2025 or whatever the hell, we also, let's read all of the books, The Grift, Clay Kane's book. Like we got to be armed with knowledge. But I feel like we're in this anti-knowledge, anti-reading, anti-information era on purpose, right? Because you have to, in order to destabilize this government, in order to really overthrow the government, you have to get the people to buy into it. And so we don't trust the media, rightfully so. And I blame the media for this because they had an opportunity to hold the door, to use a reference from Game of Thrones. They had an opportunity to be the stopgap to this nonsense, and they took profit over people. They took profit over people. In 2016, they decided it was more important to platform a liar and not tell the people he was lying, and not tell the people about the 6 bankruptcies and the bone spurs and the women touching and they decided to not show us the real Donald Trump. USFL and everything he touches turns to fake gold. They made a decision to sit with him, to play every rally, to put him in our psyche 24/7 because it brought in ratings. And then before them, the last Republican regime under Powell allowed for cretins like Rupert Murdoch to own all media in every market. So
Right.
even our local news, which we could depend on, can't be depended upon. And now we don't have, everybody curates everything. So there's no one source that we can go to trust.
That's right.
We have no trust.
Yeah, that's by design. I mean, partially, right? So some of the, like, as you just pointed out, some of the decline in trust is natural, right? And it's documented right there, and hit them where it hurts, right? And the shortcomings you pointed out. I mean, we wouldn't have Donald Trump at all if the media had covered him differently in 2016, as you pointed out. Some media has made some improvement. There's been progress. So I think it's important to always point out progress because people don't see incremental progress, but it matters. Like, that's why I always cheerlead about the work the DNC is doing under Jamie Harrison. It's a progress, guys. It's not easy to fix these big institutional structural issues, but still the media has a choice to make this cycle. Will it normalize the absolute abnormal, crazy fact that the Republican nominee, a known insurrectionist, who, by the way, the Constitution was pretty clear, didn't want to give voters an option to vote for, who's under 91 criminal indictments, right? They're going to cover it like it's the choice or decide 2024. And that, as soon as you do that, you have legitimized the absolute insanity that is happening right now. Right?
They're both old. No, that's not. Stop it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you guys, I had an opportunity to hand Mr. Jeffries, Mr. Future Speaker of the House, I hope, a copy of Hit 'em Where It Hurts. So if you're friends with him, make sure you get him to read this book so that we can get that other half of the visible part fixed. Because really what the DNC has fixed is the meat and the bones that you cannot see, but is winning us election after election after election. And that's all by Jamie and Sam Cornell's leadership there, right? But what we need to see is the visible reform, and that is something I'm still working on. So if you happen to be friends with Hakeem Jeffries, say, hey, you better read that book, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, we always invite people on, Rachel. I will say this too, openly and honestly. Very, very few politicians want. I always can tell the character of a politician who agrees to come on the show, because I will not give you questions beforehand. I'm not going to do that. And if you have a bunch of handlers that, they want to know, what are you going to ask? No, I mean, you're running for office. Be able to take a question.
Agree. I don't think there should ever be fear of media. And I talk a lot about it in the book. This book is written for everybody, but there's a lot of specific advice for certain people. And it's the ones that get called for media. Like, look, take the media engagement, because the more you're on TV, the more the tuned out part of the public sees you. and, use those media appearances to frame a narrative about the Republican Party, because that's the most important thing we have to convey. Average folks, your audience is super cerebral and really smart, probably some of the smartest people in America. And now we got to bring that information they're hearing, they're talking, they're freaking out about, to the average person who doesn't have the interest in politics that we have. And if you think about things you're not interested in, like for me, I'm not interested in NASCAR. Okay. I love sports, but not NASCAR. And so I could not tell you the name of one single NASCAR driver, dude. Like I don't know anything about it, but I love politics. So I know a lot, right? And what we want to make sure folks who are hearing our voices today and everything understand, if you have an opportunity to get on a platform, any kind of media, then you need to be telling people, hey, let's let the world know what's going on. Make sure your friends and your neighbors know what's happening. If you're working with immigrant communities, for God's sakes, tell them what the Republicans are talking about doing, because it's going to take a village, and we don't have a Fox News, but we do have each other. And that's a powerful, underutilized network.
It's more powerful. I've been a student of media, been a journalist for most of my adult life, and I realized that what you get with cable news is flash, but no substance. It's not a meal. It's potato chips. Maybe it's not even a good chocolate chip cookie. It's not even, it's like, a bad bag of Funyuns, right? Because here's the reality. Here's reality. You go on there and people see you and they're so happy to see you, but you're not reaching the masses. Right. And even on Fox, we're talking highest rating, 3.5 million.
Yes.
There are 327 million, half of whom vote, 180 million voters out there. You're not reaching them by going on TV. Right. It's an echo chamber.
Yes.
But Sirius XM, we have way more listeners than they have viewers. This show has way more listeners than CNN and MSNBC combined any day, part, or night. I know this for a fact, right? So to me, I make an assessment. Why wouldn't you come to Urban View, especially if you're trying to reach an audience that you absolutely need? And let's be clear, this audience is 70% Black, and you absolutely need them. But you go to the Breakfast Club where people don't read, write, or vote, and you're going to go there because you're going to get the hit, but the hit's not good for you. Right. And it's not good for us because it undermines our democracy in a way that is not even codifiable. Like we can't even, until November, we won't even know the impact of you going with the hot sauce in your bag. I don't know if that was the thing that probably did Hillary in. You know what I'm saying? You went in, talk about some hot sauce in your bag. You're unserious. You sat down, Joe Biden, if not for the Trump thing, you sitting with Cardi B. This one's going over sitting with Mary J. Blige. I love these people, but this is not the act of a serious person. Right. And so at the end of the day, there are many different ways to reach people. And to your point, I look at this audience. Yes, it's some of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my entire life. But they're also, you know what they are? They're also crusaders. They're the ones that are going to go out and gather up their people at the dinner table, at the cookout, at Thanksgiving. They're the ones taking people to the polls. This is not a singular voter that you're engaged with. You're engaged with people who are engaged with the future of this country. So I don't know why you wouldn't come here and advertise.
To me, these folks are some of the most important resource. And that's why I at least half of my work portfolio is pro bono, guys. Okay. And the reason is because grassroots groups, I talk about this in the book. Grassroots over there is well funded, right? They have one youth organization. It's called Turning Point USA. It had $80 million to play with in 2022. And it's got a 4-office building, mega empire in Arizona that it's based out of. Okay. We have volunteers, 15, 20 different youth groups, all volunteer, all working for free. So I do anything I can to get to help those groups, because they are the people who are talking to the most important resource in the party, which is the listeners of shows like your show, The Urban View, right? Because these folks are the front lines of the activist base of the Democratic Party. And if they know what to say and how to win the argument and how to win voters to go to the polls, to show up and vote for Democrats, even when they're mad about something, then we're going to have a magnified influence. And so I You know, that you're exactly right. A very important resource, and certainly nothing to snub your nose at. I think a lot of Democratic politicians, especially older ones, have come up in the farm system that, you know, the consultant class that I'm trying to fix, which teach them bad things like don't do the Super Bowl interview, right? I mean, the Super Bowl interview is the only opportunity Joe Biden has other than the State of the Union, which will get half the viewers, folks, half the viewers. But it's still more than anything else ever in a year because, as Karen pointed out, partisan or cable news, you know, news stuff, wonky stuff is limited. Okay. So if you can get 80 million Americans to see anything these days, it's a miracle, let alone 137. And that was the best opportunity they had to prove Biden is mentally fine. And of course, they made that decision. Then the Her report comes out. So I want to be clear about the order of that. But it was still a bad decision. You know, campaigns make bad decisions, and, you know, you just have to move on from it. But that's exactly what the book is about, getting people to understand all of our world. It's much more different than normal people. And that's why if we can tell normal people what's going on, make them see what's happening, because they're not going to see it on their own, they will respond. But we got to make that lift. And it's a very heavy lift to get to people who are, you know, algorithmically not in the political world. They don't subscribe to stuff. So we have to do it person to person. There's no other option.